Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you guys are having a great day so far. Hope you're staying hydrated, drinking lots of water, and have eaten at some point today. First things first, I have a couple of things I want to talk about. I'll talk about the most obvious thing, which is I have new overlays. I finally have made my own overlays. You probably saw the live scene one yesterday. I'll show it off really fast. This one. But today I'm here with a brand new Just Chatting overlay to match my new live scene overlay. So I'm really proud of those. I did make them myself. And I do commissions now, so check out my Twitter. It's pinned at the top of my Twitter. If you're looking for an overlay commission, I have some more examples of my work there. So that's the most obvious thing. Second, we hit 50 followers, which is really, really exciting. It's incredible. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support you give me. So thank you so much, Terrence the Terrible, 369, and Error404 Syntax for the follows yesterday. It got me to 50. Thank you so much. So all we need left is a couple more average viewers, and we will be affiliate. I have my first emote all set, ready to go. I'm so excited. So last thing is that bear with me if you hear a little bit more of labored breathing from me, some winces, other things. Last night I had, I think it's called, I can never pronounce it right, intercostal muscle strain. So basically it's a muscle strain that happens in your ribs or your upper back, and you can feel it throughout the rest of your body, like through your stomach up into your chest, sometimes your throat. I'm feeling a lot of pressure in my throat today, and it's difficult to breathe sometimes. So bear with me. It takes a minimum of 3 weeks to heal. Yeah, work with me on that. And we will be getting a new PNG tuber soon. I've commissioned one of my mutuals on the Arcane SMP to draw it for us, who is super, super talented, Jamois on Twitter, which I will be linking in the credits section once we get the PNG tuber. So those are all my announcements for today, and I guess we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna move over, do my scary music, and we'll get into it. Here we are. Nice. And we got our ambiance. Alright, so I do have the top posts from the last year. These scary stories are completely fiction, so keep that in mind. The other subreddits I read from are true to life, but this subreddit is for fictional short stories. So, as always, I will not be reading chat as I'm reading this story, but I will be reading in between. So, we're gonna get right into it. In a minute, I guess my phone's being funky. Okay. The title of this one doesn't make too much sense to me. But it's okay. This one is called, I got an Amber Alert notification saying do not look at the moon, but thousands of people were texting me, look at the moon, it's beautiful outside, by Mountain Drew 000. This is from 12 days ago. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me is I believe Amber Alert is for missing persons, so, but that's okay. I woke up at 3 a.m. to an Amber Alert notification on my phone. Struggling to find it, I turned on the lamp on my nightstand to find it on the floor. The Amber Alert notification says, "Do not look at the moon. Please fall asleep and refrain from looking outside." I was a little freaked out by this. What could possibly be wrong with looking at the moon? I became even more confused when I found out I had thousands of other notifications. My eyes grew wider and I awakened more. I unlocked my phone to find WhatsApp have a little red circle above it saying 99 plus. All of my social media apps had over 100 notifications. One of the notifications said, "Look at the moon, it's beautiful outside." Must have been someone who had gotten the notification and wanted to creep someone out. That's when I found out another notification had said, "Look at the moon, it's beautiful outside." That's weird. Another person said the same thing. I scrolled through all the notifications. To my surprise, it had all said the same thing. "Look at the moon, it's beautiful outside." I was freaked out. I wanted to look outside of curiosity, but I was so creeped out that I didn't. Maybe my phone was hacked. I decided to text my friend to see if he was up in the same scenario I was in. However, when I opened up his DMs, all the previous messages were gone, and there was only one thing on the screen. Look at the moon, it's beautiful outside. I was bewildered. I had to be hacked, right? I texted him saying, dude, what's going on? Did you get that Amber Alert notification too? About a minute later, he texted back, look at the moon, it's beautiful outside. That made me feel less like my phone was hacked. The Amber Alert had told me just to fall back asleep, so I did. Well, I didn't, but I tried to. I felt haunted from those notifications, and just couldn't sleep. Finally, I got another notification. It's the moon thing, isn't it? I mumbled under my breath. When I opened my phone, I was surprised to see a notification from my other friend, we'll call him Dave, texted me. It wasn't the moon thing, it was him saying, hey dude, you up? I got a weird Amber Alert notification and thousands of people are texting me. My eyes grew and I quickly sat up to text him back. Yeah, you getting the moon thing too? I texted quickly. He responded with, yeah, I haven't looked at the moon, have you? I responded, no, I don't want to. I'm curious though. He replied, don't look at it. I don't know what could happen, but it's certainly a bad thing. I decided to turn on my lights and close the curtains just in case. You know I'm a curious guy, I texted. I feel like I have to. He kept telling me, don't look at it, it could be bad. He knows that I'm a curious guy. I'm also a risky person. He's also really non-serious. He always dared me to do these risks and sees me as a daredevil, which is what I see myself as also. However, this time, he isn't. That's how you know he's dead serious. What could possibly happen if I looked at it? Is it so bright I'll blind my eyes? There's no light out there, I texted. This time I'm serious, he replied. I couldn't take it. My curiosity was beaming. I turned off the phone. I set it down. I walked to the window, opened the blinds, opened the window, and peeked my head out, looking up. The moon was beautiful. A pretty blue and yellow color made it glow. It was almost rainbow. The moon was bigger and brighter than usual. It was the most beautiful thing I'd seen in my life. My phone kept pinging. I walked to it with a huge grin and unfocused eyes. It was Dave saying, dude, why aren't you responding? Did you look at the moon? I responded, texting him back, using nothing but my index finger, key by key. I said, look at the moon. It's beautiful outside. Interesting. This is very, like, Junji Ito style horror to me. I tried so hard to watch that anime. I watched, like, the first episode, and I was too freaked out just by the animation style. Like, I'm not freaked out easily. Animation style scared me. I said nope. But I have read some of the manga stories. Comments. Were you inspired by Channel 58 by chance? I don't know what that is. What is that? Should we look it up? Spelled channel wrong. Oh, it's a YouTube channel. Broadcast station that manipulates you. Interesting. Alright. This gave me Bird Box horror anxiety. Oh, that too. That's true. Super great read before bed. Thanks for the writing. Someone said, look at the moon. It's beautiful outside. You troll. Oh my gosh. Great story. I have just one note. Paragraphs. True. I thought Amber Alerts were only for emergencies, including children or teens. Oh, yeah, the notification of the same sound as the Amber Alert. Or like those weather alerts, you know what I'm talking about? Everyone's just saying paragraphs, someone watched Local 58. That was good, I enjoyed that. Okay. Sip of water and then we'll move on to the next one. This is also bothering me and I really want to fix it. There we go. Just the gap underneath it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't stand that. What the heck? I'm a retired major crimes detective, and I've seen True Evil 3 times in my career. That's what this one is called. It is from 5 months ago, and it's from 10 Minute Horror, which this person did one that I really enjoyed last time, and I can't remember the name of it, but we did read one of theirs last time too. So they must be really good. Here we go. All 3 were in the last decade of my career. I spent 12 years walking the beat before I had the opportunity to step in and assist a detective and a CSI on a double homicide. Through my numerous connections from years on the streets, we managed to get several leads that led to the arrests of the guilty. I moved out of patrol and spent a decade investigating sex crimes, arsons, and armed robberies. I took advanced training seminars and workshops studying past cases and offender modalities. I worked with the drug squads on serious assaults and the occasional murder before finding myself stepping in for a retiring detective. I was familiar with his partner, Connolly, and we became a good team. I bring this up to emphasize that I've seen horrific crap in my 33 years in the force. Images I'll never shake, people who still haunt my dreams. I can honestly say that most of the criminals I've put away haven't been evil. They've all been motivated by something, however benign, to commit their acts. Then there are always some that are on the fence, the ones that take violent crimes further than would typically be the case. And then there are those that dream up horrific atrocities to be inflicted on the world around them because why not? Patty Wilson fell somewhere beyond the shades of your typical serial killer. She was the first person I encountered on the job who I could reliably say had true evil in her. Patty was an RN that had moved into the OBGYN and birthing clinic in one of the city's lower-class neighborhoods. This particular clinic had a terrible miscarriage and stillbirth rate, but the numbers were fudged and kept hidden. Eventually, people in the neighborhood started talking and got word out about how many deaths there were. Our station was contacted, and normally that type of thing would land on another desk, but we were short-staffed, so Connolly and I were brought in. Our investigation led us to Patty, and we found that in her 23 years at the clinic, there had been over 2,000 miscarriages. She'd been giving a chemical cocktail to the expectant mothers, claiming it would help with sleep. Instead, it gradually killed the fetus as it grew. Whoa, my God. We'd also discovered that after several dozen healthy births, Patty would take the baby away to be cleaned up, but would return with the horrible news that the baby had died shortly after being delivered. Our investigations into that didn't lead anywhere concrete, but one of the threads that we were pulling on led us to believe Patty had been lying to the mothers, telling them their baby had died, when in fact the baby was healthy but shipped off to the highest bidder. Got it. A live baby in the black market could fetch a tidy sum, whether for organ harvesting, stem cells, or something more deviant and horrific. We believed it was racially motivated, as almost all the miscarriages and stillbirths occurred exclusively with black parents, but Patty denied it all. I remember watching Patty in her first interview with her. Her face was normal and moved expressively as she spoke and answered our questions, but her eyes didn't. They were empty black holes, and the longer you stared into them, the more uncomfortable you became. Even after the trial, which had served with multiple life sentences, Patty denied any wrongdoing. The next case, where I witnessed true evil, it fractured into an investigation involving multiple events. Connolly and I were called in to investigate an attack on a beach volleyball tournament. On the city's largest beach, there was a national tournament with over 300 teams playing on 50 courts over the course of the weekend. The ages were from 12 to 65, and were both men and women. During morning warm-ups before the first game on the first day, one scream turned into 2 screams, turned into 100 screams. Over 1/3 of the players needed immediate medical attention. Their feet, ankles, knees, thighs, hips, stomachs, and in some cases up to their shoulders and face were covered in deep, gushing cuts. Someone had gone to the beach the night before the tournament and brought thousands of small flat pieces of wood with razor blades sticking up for the centers in an upside-down capital T shape. The wood was dug into the sand with the blades sharp and pointed upward and hidden just under the surface so no one could see them. It must have taken hours to set up. There were no deaths, but the damage that was caused resulted in hundreds of injuries and several dozen athletic young adults with sliced Achilles tendons and dwindling future in sports. Aww. As with every investigation, we started off at the crime scene and worked our way towards and outwards in tight concentric circles. Oh my gosh. While the CSIs were combing the beach, Connolly and I were interviewing the people who ran the tournament, looking for any enemies or people who might want to target them in this tournament in particular. But those led to nowhere. Sadly, the CSIs fared no better. The entire crime scene was awash. There were so many footprints and shoe and sandal prints in the sand it was impossible to search for the tracks, and the actual razor blades and pieces of wood had been doused in bleach before being placed in their small dugouts. There were no security cameras on the beach, and the lone one that was in the parking lot didn't capture any cars between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m. Our phones were ringing off the hook with tips, but there were no real leads. After a month, we were nowhere in the investigation. Then a new investigation came in, and our hamstrung department got even tighter. Connolly and I took it as well. At a senior's home, along the city's waterfront, a fire had been started in the basement. Because of the accelerants used, it quickly overtook the first 2 floors. From there, the rest of the 8-story building went up. 22 residents and 9 staff died in the fire, all from smoke inhalation. We scoured the undamaged security footage, but again found no suspects around the parking lots or front entrances. The footage from the rear of the building was destroyed, so we couldn't check it. Then the third investigation dropped onto our desks. This time, there was a mass poisoning in a junior high school cafeteria. There were 23 deaths, 15 of which were students, and over 100 severe injuries. Our investigation showed that someone had stealthily broken into the school overnight and poisoned every piece of food in the cafeteria stockroom, fridge, and freezer with arsenic. It was a miracle more people didn't die. All the school's exterior cameras were working, and after scouring them for clues, we finally found one at the back doors. The footage captured someone dressed in all black with a hood and ski mask over his face. He'd used a small set of lock-picking tools to enter the back door, which led to the kitchen. He used the same door to exit and ran off across the soccer field toward the water. And everything made sense. The beach volleyball courts, the seniors' home, and now this junior high. They all backed out onto the water. The school itself had taken advantage of that fact by introducing students to rowing, kayaking, sailing, swimming, and other sports and activities on the open sea. And the seniors' home was partially marketed based on its incredible view of the water. We hypothesized that the 3 mass crimes were committed by the same individual. We marked all 3 locations on a map and scanned down the coast for the marinas and harbors. Then we went back through the routes and picked out various waterfront hotspots we knew would have footage of their exteriors. Using the dates of the 3 incidents, we cross-checked the footage to try to find any repeat boats on the nights in question. We watched a lot of footage. There was only one boat that stood out, a large, older black speedboat being driven by a lone individual we couldn't make out the details of. A red light glowed from inside the cabin. Connolly and I got pictures of the boat printed and went to check on the marinas and harbors. None of the docks we went to had seen the particular boat or had records of it, which made us think it was a docking at a private residence. I spoke to one of my friends in the narcotics named Wacko, and he brought up the drug boats that had been populating the cove near the last dock we visited. It turned out that many of the drug users in our city had been moving away from the alleyways and SROs and onto the small dinghies and drug boats, turning them into floating pill houses. The boats were harder for cops to break up or investigate, and you could float in the cove or out in the nearby channel for up to 6 months before having to vacate. Of course, the 6-month rule was never enforced, so the cove kept getting busier and with more and more drug boats. Wacko offered to help. He went on one night and made his way around the 30 or so boats, which were loosely tied together. Wacko found our black boat. He learned the owner was a guy called Red. He was a dealer and let people use and pass out on board his boat afterwards. The next night, Wacko went back, and we followed him from a distance with a Coast Guard. We had Wacko wired so we could hear everything on board. His plan was to get in on a few others and buy and use some heroin, then pass out. He would fake the shooting up part and pretend to fall asleep. Connolly and I listened in, hearing the details of the casual conversations going on from the other users as I bought and started prep. Soon enough, all the voices went quiet, including Wacko's. A rough, agitated voice called out, asking if anyone was awake. There was no response. The voice, belonging to Red, laughed and said, "Good." We heard some shuffling, then the engine of the boat rev into gear. The boat peeled out, leaving the cove behind. Wacko had a GPS tracker in his shoe, so Connolly and I watched the boat on a monitor as it headed out to sea. We followed from a distance, the Coast Guard's lights all turned off and went completely stealth. Connolly and I continued listening in. After a few minutes, the engine died down. There were sounds of chains rustling, then clanking together. Wacko's voice came over the mic in a hushed and frantic whisper. "He's chaining us together. There's an anvil on one end." Our captain flipped the lights and sirens on, and the boat gunned it toward the blip on our radar. Over the mic, we heard Red notice the sirens. He started to panic, and from Wacko told us he was about to toss the anvil over the side. But Wacko was up and ready to fight. He surprised Red from behind and got him in a chokehold. When we arrived, Red was unconscious on the floor of the boat, and Wacko was sitting on his back. There were 5 users laying on the floor. They were all dead. Red had given them all spiked batches, and they died minutes before. When we got back to land, interrogating Red was useless and terrifying. Useless because he said nothing, and terrifying because of how he said nothing. He'd bitten off his tongue moments before we got him in the room. He was in the hospital for the next day and a half before we sat him down with a pencil and paper. We didn't really need Red to talk, though. There was more than enough evidence to put him away for the deaths of 5 users on the boat. And then divers found more bodies along the same stretch Red boated on. Altogether, it appeared Red was responsible for the deaths of over 50 people, and that didn't include the beach volleyball tournament, the seniors' home, or the junior high school. The thing I remembered most about my brief time sitting across from Red during the interviews were his eyes. Just like Patty, I watched his face move and twitch and wrinkle, but his eyes were always the same empty black, holding my gaze. We never got a reason or motive out of any of it. We found out he'd been in and out of foster homes up until his 16th birthday. Coincidentally enough, there was a house fire which killed both his foster parents and 2 other kids living there. After that, Red disappeared for a few years, then got nabbed for an assault in a movie theater and spent his 20s in and out of prison. Who knew how much destruction Red had caused over the course of his life? My third experience with True Evil was just as Connolly was nearing his retirement. Poetically enough, it was our last case together. We'd been investigating the individual abductions of 6 Caucasian women between 18 and 22. It was a little old for grooming gangs, and we ruled out human trafficking. I'm struggling today. We'd done a ton of legwork and repeat interviews with friends and family. No one went back on previous statements, everyone was solid. We didn't have a single person of interest. We did have one connection between the girls. They all traveled in similar underground heavy metal and punk rock circles. They also appeared to have similar fascination with Satanism. Connolly and I went back over the details of each disappearance and found out they all coincided with a certain opening band that occasionally played a weekly death metal show. They were called Helvet. Helvete? Helvet. I'm going to call it Helvet. And were a Norwegian black metal band. They were known for covering themselves in what looked like blood and performing in masks. Each mask was different, but followed by the typical design of a face and eyes, nose, and mouth. But the texture looked like dried skin, dark wicker twigs stuck out of the back of the head, resembling a porcupine. The more we read of them, the more they became our suspects. Connolly and I got an address and decided to go introduce ourselves. The place was on the outskirts of town, surrounded by a large plot of land and forest. We parked up the driveway, and I'll admit, the walk up to the house, I was feeling nervous. It was dusk, and the sky was a darkening gradient of orange to dark blue. The residence itself was a large, old farmhouse. Death metal blared from somewhere inside, thudding out through the shuttered windows. There was a large black van parked out back, and 2 sedans in the front. A scream erupted from the house, louder than the death metal rock. I pulled my 9mm? I don't know guns. and Connolly pulled out his 38. We called for a backup and went through the front door, which was unlocked. The interior had a staircase to the right that led upstairs, and a hallway to the left that led to a living room, dining room, and kitchen. More screams erupted along with the pounding music. We could tell the screams were coming from below us, and found a door leading to a staircase in the basement. The screams and music got louder, and were joined by chanting. Connolly led, trigger-fingered, creeping his way down the stairs. As he got to the bottom, Connolly swung out to clear the room, but someone was there. A tall mountain of a man in a dark mechanic suit, wearing one of the group's earring masks, swung down at Connolly. Connolly saw it coming, firing his 38 into the guy. My right ear blew out and my left was filled with ringing, chanting, and screaming. As I got my head back on, I saw the man had swung down at Connolly with a hatchet and lodged into Connolly's neck. Oh my gosh. He fell back but continued firing into the far end of the basement. I let my 9mm drag me around the corner. There were old bed sheets hanging from the ceiling, obscuring my vision of the basement. The heavy metal kept pumping and the chanting grew, but the screaming had stopped. I wanted to check on Connolly, but I needed to clear the room. I checked over the body Connolly had shot and followed the chanting. It led me through the sheets into a large opening. Dozens of red candles were lit. There was a circle drawn on the floor, and inside it was an inverted pentagram painted in what looked like blood. In the far corner, the ground was dirt, and I could see several graves protruding from the earth. At the center of the pentagram, a young woman wearing barely rags was chained to pegs in the ground and had just given birth. On each point of the pentagram around her were what appeared to be the remains of 5 recently delivered and now dead babies. Kneeling in front of the exhausted and crying woman was another band member, dressed similar to the previous Hulk, but smaller and with slightly different mask. He held the newest just delivered baby in his hands as it cried. There were 2 other figures in the room, one over each of the kneeling guy's shoulders. The one to the right was holding a large traditional 2-handed sledgehammer. The handle was thick wood and the mallet was solid iron lined with carvings and covered in blood and innards. The guy on the left was holding an open book and had been guiding the others in the chanting. We all stared at each other in some strange, horrific standoff. The guy with the sledgehammer pulled first, lifting it to swing at me. I leveled up on him and walked 2 rounds into his chest before turning to the other 2. The guy with the book threw it at me and I lunged. I managed to get 2 more rounds off into him, but his momentum carried him through me, and we hit the floor together. My head cracked on the ground hard, and I saw the familiar stars rushing to the edge of my vision. Everything sounded like it was underwater, but it was moving really fast. I managed to turn my head and saw the one remaining band member, the one holding the baby. He'd placed it on the ground at the center of the pentagram. He lifted the sledgehammer from his dead friend and lifted it to slam down on the remaining baby. I didn't even realize it, but I still had my 9mm in my hand. Reflexively, I pulled the trigger repeatedly until it clicked empty. The final shot connected with the guy's head as he was about to swing down. He toppled back and the sledgehammer fell safely to the side. I don't remember much after that. I woke up in a hospital and was informed Connolly had died, as had all the band members. The baby and the young woman had survived, though, so there was that. The investigation was taken over by 2 other detectives and revealed that the band member had taken women from shows, bringing them back to the farmhouse and trying to impregnate them. Once they had gotten 6 pregnant, they planned a mass, ritual sacrifice to be conducted after the final birth as an offering to the devil in some Faustian bargain. The other women had been killed after the deliveries and were buried at the far end of the basement. I never saw any of the band members' eyes when they were alive because of the masks, though I'm sure if I did, they'd carry the same darkness as Patty's and Red's. I said I'd seen true evil 3 times in my career, and that's true. But the last time, there was more to what happened than what I put in my reports. It's the reason I retired immediately after the case. It's the thing that made me realize that there is an evil I couldn't even begin to comprehend. I'd seen it right when I got into the basement and leveled off my 9mm at the three men. There was something else down there with us. It was floating in the middle of the circle, kind of like black smoke, but it stayed in place, wafting together before separating and reconnecting. Bolts of red electricity shot through it. The smoke got larger as the chanting grew. It pulsed, it expanded, and reached out, forming into the shape of a body. What gives me nightmares now is thinking about if that last baby had been killed and the smoke finished solidifying. I'm terrified that whatever would have manifested into would have shown me another realm of evil. And that's the end of that one. My goodness gracious, that last one was very intense. That last case, incredibly intense. My goodness. I think I liked the other story better, but this one was definitely still really good. Really good. 10-minute horror. You're so good at this. Let's read some of the comments. Absolutely gripping. All of your awful stories. So sorry about your partner, Connolly. Glad he was able to kill the idiot who killed him. Compelling story. I've been on the force for 18 years and I completely understand exactly what you're talking about. All of those stories are horrendous, but the last one really stuck with me. I'm glad you stopped that evil that was on an entirely different level. I feel like some people don't know that this is fictional, even though in the description of the subreddit it literally says it's fictional short stories, unless people are RPing. I don't really get it. That's so crazy and horrific at the same time. The last story gave me chills. That was breathtaking. OP had me on the edge the entire read. Wonderful work. Please post again when you can. Wow, just wow. Like, it's not like I could really relate, but good God, man, did you take me there? I was there. Alright. We're going to take a sip of water and read this next one. Okay. This one is called I Love My New Apartment Building from 4 months ago. This is by Num Yummy. I love that name. I love my new apartment building. I love my new apartment building. All the long halls, the big doors, the cathedral ceilings. What was once an empty lot is now filled with joy and laughter. Young couples starting their lives and having kids. Older couples enjoying their later years together. As for me, I was so excited to move into the city and start a new life, and totally forget the old me. New city, new me. Since it was only built 6 months ago, I was the very first to reside there. I love the dogs in the apartment, who bark all night, but I don't mind. I don't really need to sleep anyway, and I don't have a job. Plus, when they bark, which they always do when they see me, I don't feel lonely. There are so many people to meet and hang out with. I do miss my mom sometimes. Not so much my dad. He was rotten. Anyway, my building. The kids are so playful and nice. I love hearing their laughter. It's so loud I can hear it where I reside. There was no laughter in the house I grew up in. All we did was chores. And if we didn't do chores, there would be consequences. That's why I thought living by myself would be so great, even if my dad tried to force me to stay. There's a family apartment 24 that I don't like the dad much. They moved into the building last month. It really reminded me of my life back home, which I try to forget in my new life. The mom cooks, cleans, and works full-time with 3 kids at home, 2 girls and a boy to be exact. When the mother leaves, the father is mean to his kids. He hits them. I can hear the all-too-familiar sound. I can hear the kids crying, too. I don't like when I can hear them cry. I decided that I wanted to scare the dad just a little bit, so I knocked on the door, but when he opened it, I was gone. Classic dig-dong ditch, I know, but I never got to do those types of things as a kid because it was rules, rules, rules. So it's fun I can do it now. Sometimes, when I can hear the children crying and I know he's left his front door unlocked, I'll open it slowly, then slam it real hard. When he goes outside to look who did it, I'm gone. Boom, vanish. I can be tricky like that. It normally gets him to stop hurting the kids and they stop crying. Temporary relief. I remember when I told mom I was leaving. I was finally 18 and I could move to the city and play my own rules and didn't have to deal with home life any longer. She was sad, but she understood. Like I said, new city, new me. But when my dad caught wind I was leaving, he wasn't having it. He knocked me so hard in the head I never thought I was going to get up. But I did get up. Next thing I know, I'm in an empty lot in the city. The last thing my dad said to me was, "Well, you finally made it to the city," before he left me there. At that time, there wasn't much around. People passing by didn't even acknowledge I was there. No doors to slam, no walls to walk through, no children laughing. That's why I love my new apartment building. No one knows I'm here, but I'm never lonely. I mean, I love the new me. I just wish that when they were putting the building in, they dug deep enough to find the old me. That's the end of that one. Oh my gosh, that gave me chills. When I didn't see it coming until the very end, when they were like, "Nobody knows I'm here," and I was like, oh no, are they dead? Oh, that was a phenomenal twist. That was so good. I love this one. It sounded almost like a poem. It was starting with like, "I love my apartment building." Like almost every paragraph. Oh my gosh, that was so good. Okay, comments. Great story. The plot twist, very good. Nice. You can tell there's something off about the storyteller, but the twist is excellent. This is a more of a sad and sweet story. They're free, unshackled from their old abusive life, and enjoying every moment, but not having anyone to acknowledge them, their existence, and their old life is sad. Great story. Took me a while to get the plot twist, but when I did, it gave me chills. That was so good. So good. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water, answer a text, and then we'll get into the next one. Okay. Boo, just here for a minute. Welcome. Okay, this one is called Finger Counting. It is very short. This is from 11 months ago by Mr. Creep D. My daughter woke me up around 11:50 last night. My wife and I had picked her up from her friend Sally's birthday party, brought her home, and put her to bed. My wife went to the bedroom to read while I fell asleep watching the Braves game. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging my shirt sleeve. "Guess how old I'm gonna be next month?" "I don't know, Beauty," I said as I slipped on my glasses. "How old?" She smiled and held up 4 fingers. "It's almost 7:30 now. My wife and I have been up with her for almost 8 hours. She still refuses to tell us where she got them." That was nice. That like belongs in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. You know, that was so good. 50 follower Pog, yes! We're so close to first emote to being affiliated. So excited. Just a few more average viewers and we will be there. Thank you for all the emotes. I'm so excited to finally be able to share my own ones. I'm late. That is totally fine. I don't understand the story. So basically, she's like, "Oh, I'm turning 4," and she held up 4 fingers. They're not her own fingers. She just has fingers. She's like, she held up someone else's 4 fingers. Like, separated, decapitated fingers. Yeah. So that was nice. I enjoyed that. Everyone's just like, dang, didn't expect that. Sally gonna be pissed when she finds out she can't grab her dino nuggies every day. Yo, dino nuggies? So good. Wait, what did that child do? She took Sally's fingers. That's what she did. Okay, okay, we're getting into one. I love stories that are like this. This is called The Things Living in My House Are Not My Real Family. I love these. Scary stories fit right now because it's 9:41 p.m. for me. It's only 4:41 p.m. for me. Oh my goodness. I could never read or listen to this stuff at nighttime. You brave. Okay. This is from 2 months ago by Miller Willer. The things living in my house are not my real family. They look and sound like them, but I'm sure they're not. I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. It all started a few weeks ago. I woke from a deep sleep to my mom standing over my bed with a hot stack of fresh pancakes. Happy Sweet 16 was written on this in blue icing on top. Happy birthday, Jonathan. I figured I'd make something a little extra sweet for you on your special day, Mom said. I was bewildered. First, it was not my birthday. I celebrated my birthday 2 months ago. I'm a Virgo, and it was well into Libra season. Secondly, I hate pancakes with a passion. Is this a joke? I said. Mom, you know my birthday was a few months ago. She stared blankly at me for a moment as if she were looking through me. Then she broke into a loud, uncharacteristic cackle. That's a good one, honey, she said. I'm your mother. I birthed you. I think I would remember what day that was. She set the pancakes on my bedside dresser and left my room. At first, I was worried she had suffered a stroke of some kind, but over the next couple of weeks, there were more weird instances. Some were benign enough, like my unathletic father insisting he was a marathon runner, my unartistic mom transforming our guest room into an art studio, or my sister repeatedly calling the dog the wrong name. Other incidents were more serious, like when my father, who insists that pepperoni is the only acceptable pizza topping, ordered pineapple instead. Listen. Controversial, but I like me some pineapple on pizza, okay? Okay. Let it be known. I enjoy Hawaiian pizza. I stopped trying to correct them because the same thing happened every time. They gave me a strange, empty look for a moment, then a chuckle, a pat on the head, and an insistence that I was mistaken. It started to take its toll on me as I grew increasingly wary of my family. I'm a naturally skeptical person, so I figured there had to be some explanation I could find on the internet. Then, in an obscure medical journal, I stumbled on the entry for Capgras syndrome, a condition where the subject believes those around them have been body snatched and replaced. Bingo. Ironically, this set me at ease. Sure, I might be nuts, but at least there was some natural explanation. That was until things got even weirder. A rash appeared on my foot that I couldn't sate with ointment, and I discovered little pinpricks inside my armpits. Sometimes I would awake with my body red and hot all over, almost like an excruciating sunburn that I could feel deep in my bones. After these incidences, I would awake confused and less familiar with my surroundings. My bookcase was in the wrong place, my clothes had been replaced, and my family's behavior was nearly unrecognizable. Is he just like in the wrong house? These tiny mutilations continued until I awoke one morning from another dreamless sleep to find a cut behind my ear. It wasn't some tiny scratch, but an incision that had been sutured. I could feel a small piece of metal or something just beneath my skin. I had finally had enough. I couldn't explain any of this away by blaming my head. It was certain imposters had taken over my home, and I wouldn't let them get away with it. I set up a series of cameras around my house to capture the activity going on that night. I nervously succumbed to light sleep, but was awoken by a loud thud on the roof hours later. I scrambled to my computer to check the surveillance equipment. I toggled through the cameras in each room of our large house until I came upon my sister. She stood stock still in the kitchen, eyes glazed over like she was in a trance. I could barely make out a shadowy figure in the corner of the screen before it hurried into the other room. Ew, what? Next, I switched to the hallway monitors. My father was talking to something off camera. My blood ran cold as pale. I don't think that's the right expression, but that's okay. Spindly, as a pale. My blood ran cold as a pale. I missed a word there. Spindly creature stepped into view. It had its back to the camera, but I could make out 2 tentacles, forearms, and 2 legs, which seemed impossibly slender. Oh my god, is this Slender Man? They were pallid and smooth head to toe, with few identifiable features, almost like Gumby, but with a large bulbous head. Its legs did not bend, so its gait was uneven and clumsy as it shuffled toward my father. Its tentacle glowed as he raised it to my father's forehead. Moments later, my father went into a glassy-eyed trance, just like my sister. I toggled to the main bedroom to find another one of the creatures doing the same to my mother lying in bed. I panicked and leaped up from my computer, hell-bent on jumping out my window and making a break for it. However, as I turned, I was faced with one of the creatures looming over me. The creature had large black eyes that took up most of its face and a small, thin-lipped mouth. I wasn't scared as it raised its glowing tentacle to my forehead. Instead, I felt a warm light and enveloped me before everything went black. I woke in a pristinely white room, strapped to a metal table. Is this aliens? Sharp instruments were on the tables to my left and right. My head was viciously pounding as I tugged desperately against the strap securing my arms and legs. The air smelled vaguely of ammonia and sweet, but not exactly. I couldn't place it, but the place seemed familiar. A door directly in front of me opened, and 3 of the creatures shambled in silently. "What do you want with me?" I screamed. "Please just kill me. I don't want to suffer. I know you're intelligent beings. Can't you see I'm just like you?" The beings looked at one another quizzically. Then, finally, the one in the center approached the table, reached out with its tentacle, and stroked my head with it. "Of course we do, honey," the creature said in my mother's voice. "How did you do that? You sound just like her." "Oh dear, you really did get fried, didn't you?" The other 2 approached the table on either side. "You see, we don't sound like your family." "We are your family." Suddenly, the shape shifted into perfect replications of my family. "I told you we erased his mind too much. You'd better hope for the backup memories work." "I'm confident they will," Dad said. "You've been through a lot, but it's almost over, so now relax while we reboot your real memories." They stuck a needle in my arm, and all of my memories came flooding back to me. My true form is not that of a human, but a noble race of creatures cast away to their homeland in exile. They sent me to assess the viability of Earth as a new home for our pilgrims. My job was to dispose of and take the place of the household's most trusted family member. In this case, it was poor Jonathan. Once in place, I acted as an unwitting antenna, collecting data for the family, who monitored the situation in the skies above. This process was repeated across Earth with hundreds of families until every pilgrim had a home. Shapeshifting is easy, but I'm no actor, so to sell the peruse, we harvested Jonathan's memories and imported them into my consciousness. Naturally, this required the wiping of the real memory first. Admittedly, it's a shoddy process that degrades over time and requires frequent re-examinations and surgeries to maintain, hence the restless nights. Everything seemed unfamiliar to me because it was. I was the imposter, a stranger living out of place in a human family acting perfectly normally. "Mother, father, sister, I missed you so much." "As we did you," Father said. "Through your work, we are ready to inhabit the Earth together as a family." We descended home once again to the planet that we would now call home. It felt good to lie in my comfy bed and close my eyes, knowing I'd wake up to my real family again in the morning. Okay, that's the end of it, so I'm going to read what you guys have said. Boo pancakes, waffles are better. Depends on the batter. If you make the batter right, then yeah. Love scary stories. Plot twist, the mom and dad are identical twins and married the other twin, and she just went to the wrong house. What the heck? Plot twist, if a pair of identical twins married identical twins and both had a child, they would be siblings. Boom, there's the answer. I like them. The one thing I hate the most when you're scared and tired is your mind will make up random crap that's not real. I hate that. This is why, listen, I'm 20 years old and I still sleep with some kind of small light in my room. Right now, that's my RBG keyboard, but I have like a little mushroom nightlight that like changes colors. The story can't be true. That is true. It's not true. This is the only subreddit I read from that is fictional stories. This is the Scary Stories Reddit, which is short fictional stories. The other two I read from Creepy Encounters and No Sleep. Creepy Encounters are pretty much always true. No Sleep tends to be like a toss up, but normally it is true. She's started hallucinating. I had a scary thing happen to me when I was 16. Oh god. Okay. I think I've caught up on chat. I just don't like to break the story if I can help it. So we're gonna read some comments. Crazy plot twist. I really love it. It's super good. I'm definitely saving this. The twist was interesting. I don't like aliens that much. They have to be done right. Aliens are very difficult to work with. Amazing story. Everyone's just saying pretty good. Good plot twist. Alright. Gonna answer quick text, take a drink, then we will read one more, probably. Okay. This one... Do I want to read this one? I don't know. I will. Okay. This is called Get in the Oven. This is from 8 months ago by Gilardo. I think I said that right. On my 10th birthday, Grandma told me to get in the oven. Before I was pushed into the dark space, I heard the smashing of our furniture and Dad's angry voice asking where I was. He'd come home drunk again. It started when Mom left due to his cheating that showed a much darker side of him when he was confronted about it. He hit them both, the sound still ringing in my ears. I hid in my room before I could witness anything else, and when I awoke from falling asleep, I saw Grandma cleaning the oven like her life depended on it. Since I bore my mother's face, I became the target of his wrath. The abuse wasn't physical, but it didn't make anything better. Dad would make me stand in the corner before he'd scream at me until I pissed myself, scared. The horror would end when he'd see me soiling my garments, and with a smile on his face, he'd take his leave. He knew the places where I would take refuge. It was like I had no chance of escape. Not even the cops could help us. They were like marionettes of my father, after all. One defiant move and he'd snip a string. On my 10th birthday, Grandma told me to get in the oven, because that's the last place Dad would look. Through the thick glass, I saw the lower half of their bodies. Frantic hand movements told me that they had started to argue. And when Dad's hands gripped Grandma's arms, I lost it and pushed the door open. I was a crying mess already, begging my father to stop as I held onto his feet. Strong fingers pried me away from the position before he knelt down to my eye level as I felt the birth of bruises on my skin. I could hear Grandma in the background pleading for him to release his hold on me, but her cries fell on deaf ears. My voice was so hoarse at this point, but I still willed myself to make him see me as my own. Dad, please, I'm your daughter. I saw how his eyes flashed into emotion I couldn't name when he uttered not for long, as his sight darted at the oven behind me and added, just like Mommy. I knew then that what once was my place of safety just minutes ago was now threatening to be my grave. Struggling was pointless against him. I was pushed inside with all his strength, and the smell of the gas permeating the space as the corner started to heat up. I was ready to accept my end, but when Grandma reached for me, and when she pulled me out, I saw my father bleeding like a river from the knife at his throat. I didn't expect to cry, but I never expected to laugh either. I felt something break in me as I asked my grandmother, "Mom never left, did she?" My gosh, that is absolutely not what I expected. I expected Grandma to just make it a joke of like, haha, get in the oven. And then it would be a whole thing. And then like a whole joke thing or whatever. A running thing. And then when the OP was older, she would cook OP. I don't know. Everyone just saying like, incredible, very nice. That hit hard. Poor mommy. Rest in hell, Daddy-o. Lock him up. I agree, that was really good for a short story. That was good. Okay, I will read comments. Me and my brother finished middle school. Yeah, it was 7 p.m. because our middle school was dumb and it was hella dark, so we saw nothing. So we started to walk back home and my brother saw a shadow following us. But we just kept walking, but the shadow was getting slightly closer. But after we got in our house, we checked up on the news and we found out it was a killer who ends kids at middle schools, and my mind was just like, oh my gosh, what happened? Oh my gosh, that's insane. I'm really happy that you guys are okay. Holy crap. Grandma put you in the oven? What is this, Hansel and Gretel? Stab, son, take it. You deserve it. Grandma's a legend. Grandma is a legend. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's move back over here. Okay, we are going to wrap this up for today. So thank you guys so much for joining in and chatting so much. I really appreciate all the interaction and stuff. I love it. Like, it's my favorite thing to just talk with the people in chat. Yeah, so I don't have much to say besides I'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard for 3 out of 10. So I think we're finishing it tomorrow, are we? No, we're not. Not tomorrow. Next week. But yeah, we're playing 2 episodes tomorrow is my point. Anyway, we're going to see if there's any friends that are streaming today that we can possibly raid. So Discord link time? That is true. I should probably do that. If you guys want to, no pressure, join my Discord for updates, Twitter updates, stream updates, etc., and to just be in a community with the people here. Yeah, I'll eventually, at a goal, be doing weekly Discord podcasts. So, any friends raiding today? No friends raiding today, so we are just going to end. If any of you watching on YouTube, and if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. It takes 2 seconds and it's completely free, so you can always unsubscribe later. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in tomorrow's stream. Bye guys.